Well, amid all the controversy with ICE operations across America, Niagara County has officially scaled back its partnership with federal immigration authorities, now focusing on suspected criminal matters only and no longer locking up civil violators at the county jail. There was bipartisan support for this change.
It represented undue risk to the people of Niagara County. It truly really was not serving the needs of Niagara County in terms of the public safety and welfare. Didn't make sense.
Not using the criminal jail for solely civil matters that don't implicate any public safety issues.
The sheriff telling the legislature and the public last night that he believes the new policy strikes the proper balance. Shoemaker with Investigative Post broke this story yesterday before that legislature meeting, and he joins us now live tonight. So Dale, before we talk about the change, tell me about what was so controversial or in need of changing with the policy as it was before.
Yeah, so in May, Sheriff Filicetti, who you just saw on the screen there, he joined what's called the 287G program. That's it's a program that dates back to the Clinton administration, where ICE tries to elicit help from local law enforcement. They say, we'll train your officers, we'll pay you if you help us arrest and detain immigrants. So the program's been around for a while, but he joined the program in May. What that resulted in locally is women immigrants being held at the jail in Lockport. The ICE detention center in Batavia is now a male-only facility, and they had nowhere for women immigrants to be detained. So Sheriff Filicetti in the Lockport jail took on that role, and hundreds of women have now been detained for at least a short while there. It was kind of a pass-through facility over the months where, women would spend a week, maybe 2 weeks there, and then they would get transferred out of state. That's a whole other problem we could discuss. However, he was playing that role. There were a lot of civil detentions happening at that jail, and the community got really upset. In Lockport, there were some arrests of some parents of children that really upset the community, and they started saying, what can we do about this? And they started lobbying county lawmakers as well as the sheriff to say, you can't be detaining these people. They have not broken any laws.
And to be clear, what changes now going forward is dealing with those civil violations, right? The sheriff made clear that when it comes to any type of criminal matter, it will remain the status quo in terms of working with federal authorities. I want to play a little bit of what he told us last night.
If we have criminals, I don't know who would argue that we shouldn't be looking to, if they're here legally, we're going to arrest them. If they're here legally, we're going to arrest them and make sure that federal immigration is involved and knows about it.
So what to make of that? And that also seemed to have pretty broad support, right? If you're talking about folks, now these aren't necessarily people who have been convicted of crimes, but at least those who are accused of crimes.
Yeah, the important thing to note here is that the majority of immigration offenses are civil in nature. There's only a handful of immigration crimes. One of those would be if you get deported and then you re-enter the country. That would be an immigration crime. But if you are here, if you overstay a visa, or if you are an asylum seeker and you lose your bid and you are supposed to be deported, those are civil offenses. Those are not crimes. So what the sheriff is saying is that I will only hold people who a judge has issued an arrest warrant for, a judicial warrant, or an immigrant, somebody here who is here on whatever status, who just commits a regular crime, like a DUI or shoplifting or something like that. So if you happen to be an immigrant and you commit a crime, he will still arrest and hold you, just as he would do for anybody, whether citizen or not. And then if there is a specific immigration crime that a judge signs a warrant for, he would hold that person as well.
Finally, before I run out of time quickly, so what will change now at the Batavia facility? Because if you're talking about females who aren't held there, Niagara County Jail is no longer an option in at least some instances. What will change, we think?
Prior to Sheriff Filicetti joining the 287G program, women were either A, not held. They were, in some cases, given like an electric ankle monitor to be released on parole, or they were not detained at all, or in some cases they were shipped out of state. You have all these various options. So the experts I've spoken to, they say that they're going to go back to that model of either detaining fewer people or having them shipped out of state. There is now some discussion in Washington of the DHS appropriations budget that they want to include some money for additional detention centers. We're going to have to see if that has an effect on this region or not, or how quickly that happens. But for now, we're kind of back to the status quo before May.
Shoemaker with Investigative Post. You can go to investigativepost.org and read more. Thanks for helping us understand this.
Thanks.